Hello, it's Molly Reamer with 30 Days of Goddess in Bridget's Grove, and I wanted to make a quick little video about my Living the Questions finished journal. And I'm not actually sure in what format I'm going to offer Living the Questions in the future, but it is basically a 9-month long process of self-exploration and self-discovery and inquiry and all that kind of stuff. And so I had made this little companion journal to go with it, and I worked through Living the Questions pretty quietly this year. The emails rolled out to everybody on a weekly basis, but I have been focused on 30 Days of Goddess and doing other daily posts, and so I didn't post a lot publicly about Living the Questions, but I kept up with it and worked in my little journal book, and so I wanted to share the finished journal book with you. This one I treated a lot more, in terms of the art component, I treated a lot more casually than 30 Days of Goddess, because I just basically put in what I had left over or what I was thinking about at the time. But I decided it was worth a tiny bit of attention as we have closed out Living the Questions for the year, and I just wanted to give it a little bit of acknowledgement. And I think I will start making the class available as just an open enrollment rolling basis class that you could start at any time and have it just be self-guided. It's free, and since I've created it, it might as well be available to people on an ongoing basis. But I don't necessarily want to facilitate it in directly all the time. I kind of want to let it live its own life and enrich people as it can. So it just has weekly questions and prompts, and I used a lot of stickers. I used leftover pieces from my 30 Days books. And I enjoyed it. It is, I think, it is kind of a tough class. Asking these questions, leaving these questions, and discovering that there aren't any real answers isn't necessarily that fun for people. And so of the things I've created and offered, it is possibly one of the most meaningful and intentional, but it's also possibly one of the most difficult and in some ways like the least fun in terms of sometimes our questions basically are hard. Sometimes our questions are hard, and taking a look at the questions of our lives can feel messy and complicated and difficult. And, I love to create things that bring people joy and that help people excavate their joy and discover their joy and cultivate nourishing devotional practices for themselves and things like that. But I also think excavating your questions and taking kind of a hard and unflinching look at how you are living or not living the questions, how you are choosing or changing, that's worth it. It's worth it to do that process of exploration and excavation. But the other thing to point out is all the excavation and exploration that you do, if it's not followed with action or change, is kind of just an exercise in, it can just be an exercise not to be negative, it has to be paired with actually making meaningful change. So if you explore your questions and you excavate your questions and you figure out some answers or some further questions to guide your way, then the component part is then taking action on what you've learned. And so one of the things I used to say to people in my college classes, when I taught classes on community organizing, I would say, do we actually want people to know more, or do we want them to act differently? And very often the answer is that we want them to act differently. So all the knowing, all the understanding, all the excavation that we do, the true goal or the true want or the true wish is to act differently. And so I hope that Living the Questions promoted some type of meaningful action for you as well, bringing your life into harmony with your values and creating a more magical, joyful, and wonder-filled world for yourself and those around you. So anyway, that's the finished book, and at some point next year, I think I will make the class available just on a rolling, open access, start at any time type of type of class. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for being here.